Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. And today, John and Kristen are back to talk to you about Unrivaled's 1v1 tournament that has gone on throughout the week. We saw 3 days of televised 1v1 professional basketball matchups to 11, and it went pretty well. We have a lot to say about it, but before we get into all of that, Kristen, how are we doing on this Saturday afternoon?
We're good. We're doing good. We went to the Eagles parade yesterday.
I love a parade. We were hoping to try to get an episode out before the final, but sorry, we couldn't do that. We had parade business to attend to.
So that was fun, but also exhausting. So today we will relax.
Yes, big relaxing day on Saturday. As we mentioned, a lot to talk about with this 1v1 tournament. But first things first, if you'd like to reach out to us and let us know how you're feeling about the 1v1 tournament or Unrivaled or the offseason or anything about the WNBA, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram. We posted a lot of pictures about our trip to Miami. If you haven't had the chance to check out last week's episode, had a lot of fun talking about our trip to see Unrivaled. It was a great time. And I just want to say that we've heard from a handful of people out there in the podcast sphere about how much they enjoyed that episode and how much they enjoyed our talking about our trip. And I want to just say that we're both so appreciative of hearing from you and you letting us know, giving us positive feedback and telling us that you love the show. It really means a lot to us because when we first started this thing, we had no clue how much reach we would even get. But just to hear people that we don't know say that they love our show is incredibly gratifying. So thank you so much for that. It's been very, very nice. So we shift gears back to talk about Unrivaled. News drops. Before we get into Unrivaled, should we talk about some signings, some trades? I don't know. It's still been pretty quiet in the offseason, but worth highlighting, the Connecticut Sun are bringing over Layla Lacan from France. Mm-hmm. That's cool. She's still 19 or 20. She's quite young. We were wondering if they were going to do that last year, and now that they're kind of in question mark mode, I guess they decided, let's bring over our future guard, hopefully, and see if she has some pop, because we got to have something to, make the Connecticut fans excited, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much an anticipated signing. She was highly drafted last year, but with the Olympics, a lot of international players stayed overseas last year to represent their country in the Olympics. So it makes sense that she would come over now after that. And I think, the Sun, they have to do something to fill out their roster at this point. So it makes sense, and I think she'll be very good for the team.
Yeah, I mean, especially French players. You've seen a handful of them come over. Obviously, Gabby Williams officially signed up with the Storm. She's ready to rock. There were a couple more French signings. Obviously, there's the Dominique Malunga in the upcoming draft. She's French. Could be potentially coming over when she signs, but she's also very young. Could be another Layla Lacan situation, depending where she goes in the draft. Or if she even decides to go into the draft, she might decide to pass for another year. But you're seeing a lot. You're seeing some of that, and I definitely believe what you said about the Olympics being a big part of why we didn't see some of those players come over here last year. So that's exciting for Lacan, exciting for Connecticut. We'll see what she brings to the team. There was a trade yesterday, Lexi Brown from the Sparks and a third-round pick going to the Seattle Storm for a 2025 second and a 2027 second-round pick. A lot of confusion in our group talking about what this trade really means. I've always done my best to defend Lexi Brown. It's easy to point out that she's on a very cost-controlled contract for at least another year. She's one of the handful of players that is into 2026 on a sub $100,000 contract, which is helpful for roster building. So That, to me, signals that Seattle still wants to remain competitive over the next couple years, even with who knows what is going to happen next year with the CBA. But they want to have a cost-controlled player. Lexi Brown could be a player worth taking a gamble on, so that's why they made the move. Unfortunately, Jordan Horston, probably the biggest signal of why they were trading for a guard. Jordan Horston went down with an ACL injury playing international ball, which is very sad for me as a fan of Jordan Horston. But Seattle also signed Erica Wheeler and also signed Zaya Cook. So they're just trying to fill out their roster as well, just like Connecticut. And I guess they saw the opportunity there for the Sparks to move off of a guard when they have so many guards. Ray Burrell and Ari McDonald, who they're still deciding about, and whoever they, now that they have KP, just trying to figure out what they're doing in Seattle.
Yeah. No, I think it makes complete sense for the Sparks to do this trade.
To move off of her.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's whatever for Seattle to do this. I guess, it's a player that could be good.
Right.
So, fine.
I mean, they didn't trade a first-round pick for her.
Right. So, in both cases, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of conversation, especially on Bluesky, about Lexi Brown and the player that she could be and how this could be a really positive move for Seattle, if everything with the Crohn's situation works out. She's trying very hard to play basketball and managing her, her injury. And I'm sure it's a really difficult situation because she does want to hoop. Mm-hmm. And I hope for her sake that she finds the balance and she's able to figure out how to be on the court because, I want to see what dimension she can bring as a bench guard because some of the bench guards that they've signed are quality players.
The Storm.
Yeah, they're role player level.
Well, they also have Nika Mule, who knows what they're doing with her.
I know.
I hope she plays this year.
I know.
But someone else that is also in this Seattle to LA pipeline was Mercedes Russell.
That's very true.
Just signed.
Good catch.
Signed with the Sparks.
For good money. $160K, I believe. Yeah, that's a good contract for Mercedes Russell. A good spot for Mercedes Russell, despite, the number of bigs in LA. I guess she's going to be situated behind De'Erica and Azare, but you could do some.
Well, she's 6'6".
She is 6'6".
She's gonna be the biggest.
I would be interested to see if they want to do some looks where
they're gonna be huge.
They're gonna be really big, really big, which is important considering Kelsey Plum is 5'6".
If they do, that'd be hilarious. If they have Mercedes Russell, Cameron Brink, De'Erica Hamby,
Azare,
or Rakia Jackson. And then Kelsey Plum as they're starting. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of opportunities for different looks. And it just goes back to me being I look at some of these potential starting fives around the league, and they're all pretty good. They're all pretty competitive. At least starting fives. Now, when you get into the bench depth,
well, yeah, that's what
some teams are, rough. But even the Sparks, just mentioning you can't really start two of De'Erica, Azare, and Mercedes Russell, but the three of them.
Why not?
I mean, you could, but then it just pushes. I would be surprised if they went 4 bigs and Kelsey Plum.
I don't think they'll start Azare.
No, but I think she's so good. From what she's showing us in Unrivaled, I think Azare, as a stretch big, as someone who can shoot the three, as tall as she is, that's a very valuable player. There aren't too many of those in the league.
Then maybe they don't start Mercedes. Who knows? We'll see.
No, I don't think they would start Mercedes either way.
Okay. Fine.
I think De'Erica would be the priority there for center, but you could do a look where it's, you're bringing Rakia off the bench, but you want to keep developing Rakia. You want to get Cam in, but also who knows what Cam's injury timeline is still. Yeah, she's doing vlogs. Did you watch that?
No.
Cam Brink put out a Unrivaled vlog, a 10-minute vlog on their YouTube channel. I haven't checked it out either.
Recently?
Yeah, last week.
Oh,
so
no.
Probably worth checking out.
I didn't think she's even there.
Well, she probably was there for a couple weeks and then, bounced back to wherever she's been. but she's getting right, figuring it out. Yeah, I mean, still swirling around with free agency. There's still a number of players left to sign. There are theoretical trades I've heard for the 3rd overall pick with Chicago. They're maybe working out. I don't know. There's still going to be some hats to drop before the league starts. And we're going to, diagnose rosters when we have a better idea of where everybody's looking at. But that's pretty much going to do it for our news and notes around the league. Let's get into the main course of this week's conversation, the 1v1 tournament, which is really unlike anything I've ever watched in professional basketball. Obviously, we mentioned last week what we were feeling about the first 8 matchups, and we quickly realized, watching this, that any idea of what we had about how this bracket was going to go, throw it right out the window. We did a collaborative bracket. We posted it on Bluesky, and our final 4 was Jewel Lloyd, Courtney Williams, Brianna Stewart, and Satu Sabli. And none of those players...
Wait, Satu wasn't? Oh, no. It was Arike.
None of those players made the final 4. This was a despicably bad bracket.
Yeah, we did horrible.
Brutal.
Well, I mean, look. We had Courtney beating Fee, and we were like, yeah, that probably won't happen, but we are rooting for it. So that was like, yeah, that probably we knew wasn't going to work out.
Correct.
But like none of the other ones, yeah, pretty bad.
Pretty bad. Why don't we start from high level? Let's talk about how it worked. So they played games to 11 points, 2s and 3s. Every basket, on a foul, it was a 2 or a 3, just like how it's been for the rest of Unrivaled. When you shoot a free throw, it's worth 2 points, 3 points. Or the game went to 10 minutes. We didn't see a scenario where a game went to 10 minutes. They were all finished in time, going to 11. 7-second shot clocks, which I didn't know until we started watching this. But what was a kind of a neat angle was if you got a rebound from the opponent, you could pass out to one of two guys, I guess, that were out standing in this Sprite circle outside the arc, which would let you not have to dribble the ball out of the paint, which is nice for some of the players that don't have as good handles as other ones. You didn't have to do that.
No,
but most of the time they did.
Almost the whole time they did, yeah. Especially as they're getting tired towards the end of the game. It's just like, okay, let me grab this, pass it out. And then they could kind of take their time. They had to go outside the arc.
Right.
They sometimes they were just walking outside the arc. It gave them a chance to slow down a little bit.
Right.
But do you think this mechanic helped out bigs too much?
I don't know if it helped them out too much. It certainly helped out bigs because in my mind I was like, well, a big doesn't have, necessarily the best handles compared to some of the guards.
Exactly. So that's where I thought, oh, the guards will be able to steal from them and be... That did not happen.
There were not too many scenarios where the ball was getting pickpocketed. It was basically you're hoping and doing your best to generate a miss by your opponent so that you can get a rebound. It was not really like, oh, I'm going to poke the ball out and go get it. Maybe once or twice. Like Skylar when she was going demon mode. There wasn't too many examples of that happening in the game.
No, but I feel like if the taller bigs had to get a rebound and dribble it on their own and take it out on their own instead of just passing it out, then there would have been more opportunities for that to happen.
Sure. I mean, what was nice about the Sprite Circle guys is that it gave you this opportunity to, if you had made space between your opponent, you could pass the ball out and then run to the corner and then take an inbound from Mr. Sprite or whoever he is and do a catch and shoot 3.
Yeah.
Gave you the opportunity to have that dynamic because otherwise you would never be able to do catch and shoots because you're always having to pull up from your own dribble.
So in a way, that scenario kind of helps a guard.
Sure, helps a guard or helps a big like Azure who can shoot. But in most of the time, everybody attempted threes, but it was very clear only the players that were particularly good or above average at this were benefiting from it. They were, a lot of the times, because it was make it, take it as well. If you made a basket, you got the ball back. The easiest way to win was just drive, score, drive, score, drive, score, and just repeat that cycle, especially when you had a smaller opponent if you were one of the bigs.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and we're going to talk like just generally matchups that were interesting to us, and not just go through every single matchup because that would take too long. But the biggest takeaway from this event is that the bigs, if you were bigger, if you had more size, you were generally going to dominate your matchup. Also, if you scored first, you were going to dominate your matchup. I believe the final statistic at the end of the day was like 19 games to 3. If you scored first, you won. Because you're only playing to 11. And when it's 2s and 3s, like getting the first 2 points is obviously going to give you an advantage.
Right. Then you get the ball back over and over. So then you just get on a run. Like a bunch of the games were like 8-0.
Yeah, a lot of 8-0 starts.
And then the other person would get some baskets and then... But it ultimately, you get on a run at the beginning, you have such an advantage.
A lot of 11-2, 11-4, 11-5 final scores. Not too many like come from behind victories in this, which is kind of a bummer because those are always exciting. But the final 4 in this tournament, if you did not pay attention, Aaliyah Edwards, which she was the surprise of the tournament. We'll talk about her in more detail later. Napheesa Collier, Azare Stevens, and then the lone guard in the final 4 was Arike Agumbawale. Arike, who benefited from, had somewhat of an easier path, only having to win 2 matches to get to the semifinal, beating Skylar Diggins-Smith in a guard-guard matchup, and then Satu, one of the handful of, honestly, not even a handful, one of the maybe 2 or 3 scenarios where a smaller player, especially of Arike's size, being 5'8", was able to beat somebody of Satu's size, 6'4 plus. Very rare that happened. But Arike, I think a lot of people were rooting for her in the semifinals, and unfortunately she went out 11-2 in her matchup and, was cursing up a storm as she got off the court. But like we said, generally, if you were a big that could handle the ball, you were going to pretty much crush your opponent. I think the only other 2 scenarios that I can think of are Skylar Diggins-Smith winning against De'Erica Hamby and Courtney Williams beating Ryan Howard, which is a sad matchup for me as wanting to root for both of those players. They have to go out in the second round of the thing.
Yeah, John said, this is like my 2 best friends fighting.
Yeah, I know. I have to watch them beat each other up, and I don't want to see that.
But in both of those scenarios, we know Skylar goes off.
Yes.
I was not underplaying or, downplaying Skylar. I believed in her.
No, Skylar was a fiend for this format.
Yes. And then with Courtney and Ryan, Ryan, to me, she was playing very slow. These games were very fast. Ryan, to me, was the slowest one. And I don't know. I mean, I definitely think part of that was purposeful on her part, trying to slow it down and gain control. But then she also just didn't put in as much effort as the players she played against, I think. And the first matchup where she played against Lexi Hall, she ended up winning that just because I feel like Lexi couldn't make a shot.
I mean, she did.
And Ryan was defending Lexi well.
Lexi did push it. She scored 9 points. She was a good shot away from stealing it from Ryan.
A lot of shots were missed in that game.
A lot of shots were missed in every game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially in that game.
But then Courtney, Ryan was just slower again against Courtney. And Courtney's fast too.
Right. And honestly, one of the better matches of the whole tournament was Courtney Williams versus Ryan Howard, a game that ends up 11-9. Courtney Williams taking the win when she gets fouled on a 3. Apparently a questionable call. We were walking home after going out for dinner for Valentine's Day during that match, and I was just listening to it in my ear. I didn't actually see the foul. But after the game, Ryan Howard goes on Twitter and reposts a lot of discussion about, the refs are in Courtney's pocket. What kind of a call is that?
I don't think she was actually that mad. She was trolling.
I hope so.
She was just reposting.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think it's
Look, in general, this has raised a lot of emotions.
There's some saltiness.
Yeah,
for
sure. Okay. Well, there's been discussion online, whatever, from people saying, look, these bigs are just dominating. Mm-hmm. It's not really fair or fun just to see, oh, you're bigger, you'll win. Mm-hmm. Should they, in the future, split it up where the bigs play each other, the guards play each other?
And
then, at the end, you could have the two of them play. Half the board is bigs, half the board is guards. At the end, sure, they could play each other for funsies, or they could both be you're the forward winner, you're the guard winner. I don't know.
Uh-huh. I think what was nice about this, even though we lost so many first-round matchups because of injury, which was a shame. Of course, there were so many other players that I would have liked to see.
I would have loved to see Alyssa Thomas in this.
Alyssa Thomas, would have loved to see that. Mm-hmm. She would have done particularly well, I believe. Mm-hmm. Kayla McBride is another player that we were excited to see.
I know. I guess I feel... I remember her being taller than she actually is. She's not that tall.
K-Mac?
Yeah. But I feel like she could have put up a fight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. She could shoot the ball. Shoot the ball better than most of the players on the bracket. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like this was very successful, despite it being a mix of bigs and guards. The problem is, unless you are inflating the Unrivaled roster, which they should. Mm-hmm. They should have 7 players at least, which would mean 42 players. It's never going to be a clean mix of wings and guards and bigs that you could have, equal brackets. Mm-hmm. I think this was fine. I think the guards clearly voiced that they would prefer to split it. Mm-hmm. And, the results bared out that, the guards didn't do particularly well in matchups against bigger opponents. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. You could do it where you have 2 smaller brackets. I think the way that this event worked on TV was nice because there were so many. We got to see so many matchups. Mm-hmm. They did 8 on the first day, 12 on the second day, and then the final day. If you were to split it up, I would think you would need to do more best of 3 series, a couple more best of 3 series, if you had smaller brackets, because otherwise then it's over so quick. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. A couple things. First, I do think the whole point of all of Unrivaled is to be more like street pickup basketball. Mm-hmm. This was very much let's just play one-on-one.
Right.
You're picking up. Mm-hmm. So that's how it would be.
Sure. Right.
It's random.
Right.
It's whoever's there, you play. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I feel like it's fine.
Right.
That it was like this, randomly, assigned. Mm-hmm. But to your point of it would be too fast.
It would end too fast.
I think something they could do in the future is spread this out over the whole season. Is not have it all in one weekend.
That would probably work.
Okay, because for me, the first night was fun. It was exciting. But towards the end, was getting fatigued.
Sure.
Watching these players be so tired.
They were exhausted. Every matchup.
And I was getting exhausted watching it. The second day when there were 12 matchups, and we didn't even watch 5 of them.
Half of them, yeah.
I could not focus on this.
Yeah.
It was just too much. Being the very next day, all the same kind of situations. I feel like it was so exhausting for me to watch. Mm-hmm. So I think what they could do is spread it out over the whole season. Maybe week 1, they do the first round. Weeks 2 and 3, you split up the second round or something. Or you split up the first round. And as you go, then you get to the finals like towards the end of the season. And this also gives players a way to like develop more of a strategy or like talk to their other teammates like, oh, how should I, like if Aaliyah had a chance to talk to Stewie about how should I go up against Napheesa, then maybe she could have done better.
Maybe.
Because also in this scenario, like their teammates were not there.
Yeah, at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Skylar there for Fee, and then I don't think there was another missed player there for Aaliyah, which is kind of a bummer because your teammates win 10K if one of your teammates wins the tournament.
Exactly.
So like all the Owls got 10K. Did Cam get 10K? Because that's pretty funny if she got 10K.
She's on the team, they say.
Correct.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so I like Stewie for sure is like not around.
VK.
Like none of the missed players were there rooting for Aaliyah, like cheering her on, giving her pointers. None of them were there.
Yeah.
And if Stewie was there, like helping her, maybe throughout the whole week, like, oh, this is because Stewie has more experience with Napheesa than she does. Like that seems like it could be much more like strategic, more beneficial.
Yeah. I like that. I like spreading it out. How I think you could also do it if they do decide to split 2 brackets. Why don't we, first off, I think they're going to shorten it a little bit. I don't think it's going to be 10 weeks necessarily. Well, who knows? Maybe it goes to 8 weeks because they're concerned about player safety. But what they could do is they could add in, by shortening the schedule, they could add in kind of like a bye week where the first bye week is the guards just playing their tournament. Let's say there's 16 guards that play. You do that. Similar to this, where it's like over 3 days, you're just doing the guard tournament, and then it's over. And then a couple weeks later, you do the big tournament.
Yeah.
And the guards all get off. So the bigs get a week off, the guards get a week off, and then at the end of Unrivaled, you get the final face-off. I don't know how you do that, because how do you sell tickets to that event when it's like only one matchup of like the big versus the guard?
Well, it was best of 3.
Right. You could do something like that. Or you just do the final weekend is like the 2 guards in the semifinal and the 2 bigs, and then they play best of 3 series, and then you do another best of 3 series for the final. I don't know. There are ways that you could tweak it. I still think it was successful. I still think it got a lot of engagement online. I had a blast talking about it on Bluesky with fans. Like so many people saying, man, I would have lost so much money if I could have bet on this, or just rooting for Aaliyah Edwards. Let's give Aaliyah Edwards her flowers, because the rookie ran through the bracket. Who did she take out? She started by taking out Stewie.
Yeah.
Which was pretty huge.
It was definitely unexpected. I don't think Stewie went into this matchup like saying, oh, I'm letting Aaliyah win.
No.
At all. I don't think she purposely did that.
They are teammates.
But I don't think she put 100% of her effort into this matchup. I mean, Aaliyah won 12-0.
True. Was it the only shutout? I think it was the only shutout.
I think it was.
Of the tournament. Yeah, Stewie gets shut out.
And then she goes to Spain.
What, is that confirmed?
That's what Laura's been saying. I don't know.
I no emails in Spain. Honestly, Stewie, you deserve it.
So, great for Aaliyah.
Yeah, really great for Aaliyah.
Then she had a bye because the next matchup would have been Marina versus Kate Martin. Both of them didn't play.
Marina putting in work, though. She's practicing. She's coming back like a demon.
So then Aaliyah beat Alicia Gray.
Which was tough for me.
That was tough. Then she beat Satu.
No, then she beat Enrique.
Oh, Enrique. it's hard looking at our bracket, which is completely wrong.
Correct. Yeah, she beat Arike, and then she goes to the final against Fee, and in the 3-game matchup, she ends up winning game 1. And at first, when she wins game 1, I'm like, I think she's going to take this.
Pretty handily, she won game 1.
She was certainly the biggest surprise of the tournament because I've appreciated Aaliyah Edwards' game from last year. Obviously, she was the 6th overall pick, a rookie playing in Washington. Didn't have a lot of, that team didn't have a lot of hopes, didn't have high expectations. She got hurt. She was wearing a mask for most of the season, and she's worn it a couple times in Unrivaled. But she showed me that she's very mobile. She can handle the ball pretty well. In these scenarios, her drives were very effective. She has a bit of a fadeaway game. She has paint game. I think if she develops a dependable shot, then she could be a player like Napheesa Collier. Like, I posted on Bluesky and I said, if Aaliyah Edwards takes a leap in her second year, like, how much better could Washington be than we're thinking of right now?
That's what I'm saying.
They've got the 4th overall pick, the 6th overall pick, potentially Aaliyah Edwards jumping. They've got Slim. They've got Steph. They've got plenty of other players.
They are not bad.
They're certainly better. They don't have like the top end talent, but if Aaliyah Edwards starts to develop into, if she goes to top 25, then you start to talk yourself into like, build a team around Aaliyah Edwards, and you might be cooking with gas. I cannot say enough about her game.
They lost Julie Von Lowe in the Valkyries draft.
Correct.
They had done nothing in the offseason, so they really are still looking, they should still be looking for another point guard type player to fill that spot.
I mean, like I said, 4th overall pick. That could be point guard.
True. I don't know if there's anyone else from UConn, because Aaliyah went to UConn.
Yes.
I'm just trying to think of a player who, like, gets along well with Aaliyah and, like, they work well together.
Set your core up.
Yes.
Your 2 young players in Aaliyah Edwards and whoever you draft in this draft.
Yeah, or they find another player.
Yeah, maybe like an AZ. Maybe that probably with the 6th pick more so than the 4th pick.
Or like an already in the league player.
True.
Who works well with Aaliyah. I don't know who.
Yeah, I mean, there are guards about
Could have been Sloot.
It could have been Sloot. I mean, if Sloot wanted to end her career there in
No, it's fine.
Washington.
I know. She was already in Chicago. But just thinking that they are on the mist together right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I just think Aaliyah Edwards deserves the appreciation in this moment because of how well she played in this tournament.
No, she definitely proved herself as someone like you need to start taking seriously.
Yeah, and I think they need to play her more when we get back to 3-on-3 matchups, because I feel like talking about it when we were there, the Mist almost won their games because Aaliyah Edwards was so good. I mean, she's so efficient.
Yeah, and like, so she really, in this one-on-one, you show what you as an individual are able to do with the ball. So she proved that individually she has the skill to play with the best of them. Now I think you have to start translating that to the 3-on-3, get her more looks, which you can definitely do with Stewie there and with Rakia Jackson. That's a great 3.
Yeah.
So I think they need to start. Who's the coach of the Mist? I don't know.
Adam Harrington is that Phil Handy? That's Phil Handy. Coach Handy.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah, that coaching staff needs to be looking at Aaliyah more. And then you start looking at, okay, now the 5-on-5. How can we keep her going in that?
Yeah.
So, and they have all new coaches.
Correct.
The Mystics do.
And hopefully the new coach appreciates that and lets Aaliyah be Aaliyah, do what she, instead of just like get in the post and only play in the post. Like, you got to give her a little freedom. And I think she deserves all that. Any thoughts on Queen Fee taking home $200K?
I mean, I feel like we knew from the beginning she was going to win.
She had pretty much the best odds.
She's been the best player this entire season in Unrivaled. Her team's the best team. Her team was rallying around her. So.
What was her path? She beat Katie Lou, who was probably the player that gave her the most trouble.
Yeah. That was a pretty good game.
Katie Lou was hitting some shots, at least making it interesting. She beats Rakia Jackson, which was an interesting matchup. There was a little bit of a beef there. Rakia was excited for the opportunity to play Fee, but Fee took care of business. She beats Court, even though like everything that Court was saying about like, this tournament's going to go through me. You're going to have to beat me, Fee.
I think Court really like lost her juice quickly.
Which is sad.
She came out really hot and then just like couldn't keep up.
She had her dad on the bench cheering her on, pep talking her. Very funny. Then she had to beat Azure Stevens, another player that surprised us in this tournament. Definitely a very capable player, Azure. Like I mentioned earlier, her ability to shoot the ball. I think she won maybe the fastest matchup. She won a game in under 2 minutes. Just like took care of business. So that was pretty cool to see.
Sophie really did beat
all the archetypes.
All the bigs.
Sure.
Other bigs.
Yeah.
Like Aaliyah beat some guards. Arike beat guards. Azure beat guards. Azure beat Jewel. I literally can't tell from this. But Fee had to beat the most bigs, I feel like.
Yes.
Which was, in this scenario, what you had to do to win.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, what haven't we already said about Fee? She's very good, and I think she's continuing to prove that she has a huge chip on her shoulder.
Potentially in the future. I don't love the fact that, like, the biggest owner of the league is winning. But she has the, I'm not denying her the opportunity to play in this.
Sure.
So in the future, maybe she's like, I won last year.
I don't need to play.
Have to play again.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
Yeah. Then the vitriol on Twitter, and it wasn't really on Bluesky, but on Twitter, maybe that could tone down a bit.
Yeah, people were mad.
Naturally. People are always mad.
Yeah.
They only get mad.
Well, that's true.
Okay. So, I mean, that's basically our takes on the 1v1 tournament. Again, I think it was a fun time. I think it was unique. When we started watching it, Kristen was like, I wish we were there. I just wish we were in Miami watching because we had such a good time. Yeah. This would have been a cool thing to be a part of. And NBA, like, do something similar. Even for, like, All-Star Weekend. You got to do something. You got to do something like this.
It definitely doesn't have to be this big.
No.
This many matchups.
Just do 16 or 8.
Yeah, 8.
I don't care.
4.
4 players.
It's just a lot. It was a lot.
Well, before we preview this week's Unrivaled matchups, do you want to talk about the other little matchup that's going on today?
Sure.
For those that may not be aware, because we weren't aware of it until this morning.
Yeah.
There's a 2-on-2 matchup that's happening today.
I do not know when this was scheduled. I'm first hearing about it like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
It's Dejanay and Arike playing against, both of them will be on the wings. Playing against Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray.
Aces.
All guards.
Uh-huh.
Who were upset by this, what happened in one-on-one.
Sure.
So I don't want to be conspiracy. I don't know when this was scheduled.
Uh-huh.
But my first thought is all of these players were kind of pissed of how the one-on-one situation went.
But also, how? Hold on. Take it back. Because how do you schedule this event and sell tickets to this event if it's just like, oh, you decided it the other day?
Are they selling tickets?
I assume so. You think it's going to be an empty stadium?
I have no idea. I do not know what this is. It's a 2-on-2.
Hosted by Asia Wilson.
Where's Asia been? How is she here?
She's been selling her shoes.
I think this is in Indianapolis. Unless, like, I Googled Hennessy Arena, it shows up in Indianapolis. Unless they, like, made up a different Hennessy Arena somewhere else. It just seems so random to me. So out of the blue.
We don't know any of the rules.
Enrique literally played in the one-on-one in Miami yesterday. I'm just confused. But that's happening tonight, 2-on-2.
6 p.m.
Hosted by Asia.
Streaming on YouTube.
We'll see.
Who
do you think will win out of these? I think, is Jackie better? I thought Jackie was hurt.
Yeah, Jackie got... she's been dealing with her injury. It kind of popped up in this 1v1 tournament when she played Rikia. Clearly she must be okay enough to play 2-on-2.
She looked kind of rough in it, though.
I think I'm going to take Dejanay and Enrique.
Oh, I was going to take Chelsea and Jackie.
I'm only saying that because, like, Dejanay can guard better than anybody here,
and Chelsea can.
Enrique has low key been cooking throughout this past week.
She was cooking. She was.
I literally have no clue what to expect out of this. It's gonna kind of be funny to just tune in and be like, okay.
Like, how long is this gonna take?
How long's the match? What are the rules gonna be? Is there gonna be a Sprite guy, Mr. Sprite? Is he gonna be there to outbound the ball?
I have no idea.
But I hope somebody listening to this it's
live on YouTube.
Saturday afternoon is like, oh, I'm gonna check that out because I had no clue.
Because people are like, oh, live at NBA All-Star Weekend? They're doing this for the NBA All-Star game?
No,
I don't.
It's in Indianapolis.
Think. This article says it'll be at San Francisco City Hall. San Francisco City Hall?
Okay, so it is for NBA All-Star then, because they're in San Francisco.
Right, they're not in Indianapolis.
It was Indianapolis last year. So could they have just posted Hennessy Arena because they thought...
Wait.
Are we spouting fake news?
What is... This includes a first-of-its-kind CGI reveal narrated by Asia Wilson. What does that mean? We don't know what this is, but we're going to be watching it at 6 p.m. live on YouTube.
Check it out.
Okay.
We'll talk about it next week on Attack the Baseline. Hopefully it's worth watching. But even if it's a goofy, it'll be worth watching, I think. And we get to see what Asia's been up to. Now that the A1s are out, maybe she has something fun to say. Maybe they mention Unrivaled. I don't know. They're all there. The 4 players are from Unrivaled. Mm-hmm. So they've all been in Miami. And then Asia's going to be like, hey, I'm CGI Asia. I don't know. Okay, so last things last. Let's preview this upcoming week in Unrivaled. We're back to the 3-on-3 format. We have games Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday this week. Mm-hmm. No Monday. They're still giving them an extra day off after the 1v1 tournament. But our first matchups on Tuesday, we have the Rose Basketball Club versus the Vinyl Basketball Club, and then the Phantom versus the Laces. I think the big thing to mention here is that the Laces have not played in a hot minute.
Yeah, honestly, that's a big game for the Laces, for my Laces. Mm-hmm. Will they all be back? No idea. If they can beat the Phantom, I would love it.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, at this point, my expectations are low.
Unfortunately. I mean, if Jackie is healthy, then that is very helpful. Mm-hmm. Maybe we see this Kiki Jefferson player that we haven't seen, who they signed to the relief contract. But I mean, looking at the standings, the Owls are still, 8-0, and then the Laces are next at 4-2.
Yeah, so that might slip this week if the Rose can win. The Rose are right behind them. Yeah,
I mean, if Rose beat Vinyl, who have been on a 4-game skid still, the Rose have won their last 2. That'll be a matchup worth watching. Is Chelsea tired because she was just in San Francisco and had to fly back? What is jet lag going to do to some of these matchups? Is Enrique going to be tired? I don't know. I literally have no clue. CGI Asia, what does she have for us? So yeah, an exciting first night getting back to the 3-on-3 format. We look at Friday. The Lunar Owls look to continue their win streak against the Rose, who, if the Rose win the night before, or win on Tuesday, they could be a matchup between the 1 and the 2. And then the Miss Basketball Club gets back at it with the Vinyl. The Mist, who were very competitive when we were in Miami, who are still looking to improve on their bit of a slow start. They could show something in those matchups on Friday. And then we look at Saturday. We get a rematch of our faves, Lunar Owls versus the Laces at 6 p.m.
Do not embarrass me this time.
They could be full strength.
They better be.
And then the Vinyl versus the Phantom as the end cap on Saturday night.
If I'm their coach, you guys keep resting your game against the Phantom. You hope we win that because the Phantom just haven't been as good.
I mean,
you save yourself and give the Owls their first loss.
Somebody's got to do it. You would think. And the Laces have the firepower to do it. And they're rested. Except for Jackie, who's going to be playing the 2v2 with CGI Asia. The last time when it was Laces Owls, it was almost the first upset by the Laces. Came down to one basket. It was a tight finish. Jackie Young was on fire in the fourth quarter there. So the Jackie dimension still has not been fully fleshed out now that she's back. I hope that injury that she seemed to be dealing with against Rakia is fully managed.
I thought she had a concussion.
I don't think... Is it she that... Is it Tip? Tip has the concussion.
Oh, mm-hmm.
God, I hope you're okay, Tip. I do want the Laces to succeed, but you're not gonna.
We know.
You're not gonna be catching me denying the Hootie Who.
We know.
And now that the Hootie Who's have learned how to lose because they all lost in the 1v1 tournament except for Fee, and they all won 10K. So I guess they did. I guess they didn't lose.
Big losers.
I think they're only going to be more juiced to keep the undefeated streak alive.
That's why we have to knock them down a peg.
We'll see what happens this week in Unrivaled. Kristen, do you have anything else before we go this week?
No, do not.
Okay.
We are keeping our eye on college basketball.
Yes.
A lot's been happening in the world of women's basketball lately.
Yeah.
Some incredible matchups.
USC knocking off UCLA,
Tomorrow,
giving them their first win.
Sunday,
First
UConn versus South Carolina.
That's a huge game.
Big game.
1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Tune into that.
Eastern.
And we will have our friend Dat on in the near future to recap what's been happening and then preview
the
brackets. Yes. March Madness coming up.
Yeah, March Madness is coming up, and this is going to be the first year that I'm going to fill out a women's bracket. I'm looking forward to it because now I have way better vision on it than I ever had. So looking forward to that. Keep that in mind. Again, if you want to reach out to us, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. Connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. We're there. 5-star ratings and reviews, if you'd be so kind. Continue to bring those in. Those have been so helpful in developing the show. And if you have nice things to say about our commentary about the WNBA, please continue to do so because it makes me happy. But, Kristen, I am staring at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the baseline. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back next week to talk more WNBA goodness. Till then, top for now.